To install MCUXpresso IDE on your PC, again you're going to go to Google, to MCUXpresso Eclipse IDE, and click here. And again you're going to go to download, and if you don't have an account you're going to register. Once they send you the email, then you're going to then sign in when you have the authentication email. And once you get logged in, again we're going to use the most current version, and we're basically just going to click here. We're going to agree, and this time we're going to go to the one for Windows, and we're going to say Save File under File Explorer. Then we can click on this, double click, and we're going to say yes to the installer. I accept the agreement, hit next, next, for all users, install. Now at this point it's going to be installing Sager, so just let it install JLink and all the drivers that come in here, just let it continue. And fail to create, it doesn't matter that it didn't create a restore point, that's not important. We're going to hit next, and we're going to not worry about the user's guide, not launch this, and just finish. The next step is to go to Google and do MCUXpresso SDK Builder, and we're not going to use the ad, we're going to go down here. Select this one. We're going to select development board. We're going to log in, and again what we're going to do is from boards we're going to select Kinetis, and from Kinetis we're going to select Freedom K64, and up here we're going to use the latest one, which is at this point version 2.9.0. Click here. We're going to select all. We're going to scroll down here and download SDK. We're going to agree, and we're going to save file. And we're going to find that it is indeed in our downloads folder. Now that we have downloaded MCUXpresso, what we're going to do is actually take a look at it. We're going to pin to taskbar, and that's the one over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on it and launch it, and first thing we're going to do is change this to the downloads folder. And this is very important because where we export from MBED to MCUXpresso, we'll go into the downloads, and we want to make sure that this is where it's going to pick it up. One of the things you're going to find is Windows Defender Firewall is going to block some features, so what you're going to have to do is say allow access. Now that we've launched MCUXpresso, let's bring up on a separate window our downloads folder, and at this point we're just going to grab the SDK 290 and slide it over here and say OK. And this is how we put our SDK in here. Now without the SDK here, it's not going to work properly because it won't know what to do when we export from MBED to MCUXpresso. It's not going to know what to do with that because it wouldn't have, without this, any information about the Freedom K64. Let's go to blinking lid copy here. And one of the things we have to make sure of is to make sure that we've got the classes library here for MBED when we export to MCUXpresso. If we don't, it's not going to work properly. So let's right mouse click our export program, and then we're going to go down here to MCUXpresso and say export, and we're going to say save file, and it should put that in our downloads directory. Now at this point what we're going to do is we're just going to go back to MCUXpresso, and we're going to say file, import, projects from folders or archive. We're going to say next. We're going to go archive, and we're going to choose blinking lid copy and say open, and we're going to say finish. Now when we open this up here again and we double click here, it should appear in this window here. Now some of the problems that you're going to run into when you hit the blue bug, going to give you a lot of things to say blocking this and blocking that. Sometimes have to get completely right out of MCUXpresso and launch it again, and chances are it will work as it's working here. Now this is with the latest version of everything, but you have to make sure that you check to make sure Windows is not blocking stuff. You also have to make sure your virus checker has made exceptions to everything. Let's look at installing MCUXpresso Eclipse IDE for the Mac. So we're just going to type in MCUXpresso Eclipse IDE, and we can go right here, click on this, and it's going to take us to here where we can do a download. At this point it wants us to sign in. Now if you don't have an account, you can register here by register now, or you can just type in your password and so on. Once you're registered and you get your confirmation email, and then you can sign in. Now at this point you have MCUXpresso IDE, which is the current version. At the recording of this video is 11.3.1. So we're just going to click on it, and you have to agree, And at this point we have 3 versions: Linux, Mac, and Windows. For this time we're going to use the one for Mac, so we're going to click here and it's going to download it. Now up here, because I'm using Safari, it's going to do the download, and when it's finished we're just going to double click and install. And once the download is complete, we can simply double click here, say continue, continue, agree, install, put in our password, close, and move to trash. To get the SDK, we just type into Google MCUXpresso SDK, and we're not going to go to the one that says add here, we're going to go to the one here. And when we click on this, it's going to say MCUXpresso SDK Builder, and we're going to have to select our development board. And we're going to select under boards, we're going to go down here to Kinetis, and under Kinetis we're going to go Freedom K64, this one here, and over on the right it's going to then say build MCUXpresso SDK. Now we're going to use the most current one, which is version 2.9.0, at least at the making of this video. We're just going to hit build, and we can then select all and then say download SDK. We're going to have to agree, and it's going to then have the SDK loaded up here. And once the download is complete, it's going to decompress the file and have it ready for use with MCUXpresso. Now that we've downloaded MCUXpresso, what we can do is set it up by going here to Launchpad, clicking on it, going towards search, typing MCU until it comes up, and then we're just going to grab that and slide it down to our launch here. Once it's there, we can then simply click on it to launch it, and from now on we can launch it right from our Launchpad here. First thing we want to do is change this from being where it is to our downloads directory here, because we're going to find that if we don't, it's not going to work properly, because when we're going to export something from MBED to MCUXpresso, it's going to put it in downloads, and we want to make sure that we're going to be importing it from where it's downloading it from MBED. So we're just going to launch, and we're going to close the welcome here. And at this point, what we see here, we don't have any installed SDKs for the Freedom K64. So that's what we have to do at this point. So we've already downloaded that, so let's go to our downloads here. And there is our Freedom K64 2.9 Freedom K64. So all we have to do is just drag and drop it here and say OK. And once it's there, we have all the stuff that we need for our Freedom K64 to be able to be interpreted. Without putting this in, it's not going to be able to handle or understand any of the information we send from MBED to MCUXpresso, because it doesn't have the appropriate software development toolkit to actually manage anything that comes from the Freedom K64. To check out to make sure this is working properly, we're going to go to os.mbed.com. We're going to log in. We're going to go down here to blinking lid copy, and the reason for this, if we look at MBED here, it's got the classes library. So what we're going to do is left click on this, right click, go here to export program, go down here and make sure we choose MCUXpresso and say export. The next thing we want to do is go back to MCUXpresso. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to say file, import, general, existing projects into Workspace, and say next, and there it is, and we're going to say finish. And once it's done, we're going to open this up, we're going to go to blinking lids and double click, and when it's here, all we have to do is hit the blue bug and everything should work automatically. And notice it's got Simsys DAP here, and we're just going to say OK. And it should download it and put it right into the board, and that's what we're seeing here without any problems. And then at this point we can either run, trace, or whatever it is we want to do.